When do you not pull permits? In emergencies, where immediate action is required to prevent harm or damage, permits may not be required at that moment, but will likely be necessary after the fact. For minor repairs or alterations that do not significantly alter the structure, systems, or safety of the building. When the building is exempt from the permit requirement due to its age or historic status. Regarding residential and commercial plug installations, if the plug installation meets all applicable code requirements and does not involve alterations to the electrical panel or wiring system, a permit may not be required. However, it is always best to check with the local building department to confirm. If a customer is requesting no permit, explain the legal requirements and potential consequences of not obtaining a permit. Offer to provide a written estimate that includes the cost of obtaining the permit. If the customer still insists on no permit, document their request and proceed with caution. Due to the legal and professional implications, it is not advisable to complete any electrical work without pulling a permit. The smallest job that a permit should be pulled for is installing a single outlet in a residential bedroom. The deciding factors to pull or not to pull a permit are the scope of the work and potential impact on the safety or integrity of the building, local building codes and permit requirements, and a customer's wishes, but only if they align with legal and safety considerations. Electrical permits are a crucial aspect of ensuring safety and code compliance in both residential and commercial electrical projects. Understanding when and why permits are required is essential for any electrician or homeowner undertaking electrical work. This discussion will delve into the specifics of electrical permits, outlining the circumstances under which they are necessary, the factors that influence permit decisions, and the potential consequences of failing to obtain them. The primary purpose of electrical permits is to ensure that all electrical work is performed safely and in accordance with established codes and regulations. These codes, such as the National Electrical Code, or NEC, set standards for electrical installations to minimize the risk of fire, electric shock, and other hazards. By requiring permits and inspections, local authorities can verify that electrical work meets these standards, protecting both the property and the occupants. Emergency situations often require immediate action to prevent harm or damage. In such cases, it may not be feasible to obtain a permit before commencing work. Examples of emergency situations include repairing a damaged electrical panel after a storm or fixing a faulty wire that poses an immediate fire risk. While immediate action is necessary, it is typically required to obtain a permit retroactively once the emergency has been addressed. This ensures that the repairs are inspected and comply with safety standards. Minor repairs and alterations that do not significantly affect the structure, systems, or safety of a building may not require a permit. These types of projects are typically simple and straightforward, posing minimal risk. Examples include replacing a light fixture, changing a switch, or repairing a damaged outlet. However, it is essential to note that the definition of what constitutes a minor repair can vary by jurisdiction. Some jurisdictions may have specific thresholds for project value or scope that determine whether a permit is required. Buildings with historical significance or those that meet certain age criteria may be exempt from permit requirements. These exemptions are often put in place to preserve the architectural integrity of older buildings and reduce the burden of compliance with modern codes. However, even in cases where exemptions exist, it is crucial to ensure that all electrical work is performed safely and in accordance with best practices. It is always advisable to consult with local authorities or a qualified electrician to determine whether an exemption applies and what alternative safety measures may be necessary. When it comes to residential and commercial plug installations, whether or not a permit is required depends on the scope and complexity of the project. If the installation meets all applicable code requirements and does not involve alterations to the electrical panel or wiring system, a permit may not be necessary. This is often the case when adding a new outlet to an existing circuit or replacing a damaged receptacle. However, it is essential to ensure that the existing circuit has sufficient capacity to handle the additional load and that the wiring is in good condition. If the installation involves modifications to the electrical panel, such as adding a new circuit breaker, or if it requires running new wiring through walls or ceilings, a permit is typically required. These types of projects pose a greater risk of electrical hazards and require inspection to ensure compliance with safety standards. When in doubt, it is always best to check with the local building department to confirm whether a permit is required for a specific plug installation. Building departments can provide guidance on local codes and regulations, helping to avoid potential fines or penalties. When a customer requests that electrical work be performed without obtaining a permit, it is important to address their concerns and explain the legal and safety implications. It is essential to communicate the legal requirements for obtaining a permit, emphasizing that it is a mandatory step to ensure the safety and compliance of electrical work. Explain that performing work without a permit can result in fines, penalties, and legal liabilities for both the electrician and the property owner. Additionally, it can invalidate insurance coverage in the event of an electrical fire or other incident. It is also important to highlight the safety benefits of obtaining a permit. Explain that the permit process includes inspections by qualified electrical inspectors who can identify potential hazards and ensure that the work meets safety standards. These inspections can help prevent fires, electric shocks, and other electrical accidents, protecting the property and its occupants. Offer to provide a written estimate that includes the cost of obtaining the permit. This demonstrates transparency and allows the customer to understand the full cost of the project, including permit fees. Break down the estimate to show the cost of labor, materials, and permit fees separately. This can help the customer appreciate the value of obtaining a permit and see that it is a necessary part of the project. If, after explaining the legal and safety implications, the customer still insists on not obtaining a permit, it is crucial to document their request in writing. This documentation can serve as evidence that the customer was informed of the risks and chose to proceed against professional advice. Proceed with caution, carefully considering the potential consequences of performing work without a permit. It is advisable to consult with legal counsel to understand the potential liabilities and risks involved. In some cases, it may be necessary to decline the job to avoid legal or ethical issues. Completing electrical work without obtaining a permit can have significant legal and professional implications. It is generally not advisable to undertake any electrical work without the necessary permits, as it can result in fines, penalties, and legal liabilities for both the electrician and the property owner. Additionally, it can invalidate insurance coverage and create safety hazards. The smallest job that a permit should be pulled for is installing a single outlet in a residential bedroom. Even seemingly minor electrical work can pose safety risks if not performed correctly. Therefore, it is important to obtain a permit and have the work inspected to ensure compliance with safety standards. Several factors influence the decision to pull or not to pull a permit for an electrical project. These factors include the scope of the work, the potential impact on the safety or integrity of the building, local building codes and permit requirements, and the customer's wishes, but only if they align with legal and safety considerations. The scope of the work is a primary consideration when determining whether a permit is required. Projects that involve significant alterations to the electrical system, such as adding new circuits, modifying the electrical panel, or running new wiring, typically require a permit. These types of projects pose a greater risk of electrical hazards and require inspection to ensure compliance with safety standards. Minor repairs and alterations, such as replacing a light fixture or changing a switch, may not require a permit depending on local regulations. The potential impact on the safety or integrity of the building is another important factor. Electrical work that could compromise the safety of the building or its occupants should always be performed with a permit and inspected by qualified professionals. This includes work that could increase the risk of fire, electric shock, or other electrical hazards. It also includes work that could affect the structural integrity of the building, such as running wiring through load-bearing walls or ceilings. Local building codes and permit requirements play a crucial role in determining whether a permit is required. These codes and regulations vary by jurisdiction, so it is important to consult with the local building department to understand the specific requirements in your area. Building departments can provide guidance on permit thresholds, inspection procedures, and other relevant information. While the customer's wishes should be taken into consideration, they should not override legal and safety considerations. It is the electrician's responsibility to ensure that all electrical work is performed safely and in compliance with applicable codes and regulations, regardless of the customer's preferences. If a customer insists on not obtaining a permit, it is important to explain the risks and consequences and to document their request in writing. In some cases, it may be necessary to decline the job to avoid legal or ethical issues. Electrical permits are a critical tool for ensuring safety and code compliance in electrical projects. By understanding when and why permits are required, electricians and homeowners can help prevent electrical hazards and protect their properties and occupants. When in doubt, it is always best to consult with local authorities or a qualified electrician to determine the appropriate course of action. Obtaining electrical permits is more than just a bureaucratic formality. It is a fundamental step in ensuring the safety, compliance, and longevity of electrical systems in both residential and commercial settings. By adhering to permit requirements and working closely with local authorities and qualified electricians, property owners can mitigate risks, avoid legal complications, and create safe and reliable electrical environments. Remember, electrical safety is paramount, and compliance with codes and regulations is non-negotiable. Embrace the permit process as a means of safeguarding your property, protecting your loved ones, and upholding the highest standards of electrical workmanship.